Hi, and welcome to creating an interactive PDF presentation. For this video, we're going to create a very basic PDF presentation that also has some interactivity, some buttons, some links to videos, so some pretty basic stuff. This works great in lieu of PowerPoint or any other presentation making software because there's a little bit more control for us designers. So let's get started in InDesign. Within InDesign, I'm going to make the width of my document 12 inches and the height I'm going to set to 9. Now you can also set this to, if you know the pixel dimensions of the screen that you're going to be using, you can set this to those pixel dimensions. However, this is a decent starting off point. I'm going to set my number of pages to about how many pages I might think that my presentation is going to be, so I'm just going to start with 10. I can add or delete pages as I go, and I want to uncheck facing pages because this is a presentation. I don't need a spread view. So now that I have that, I'm going to hit Create, and that gives me my basic InDesign document here. Now that I'm in InDesign, I want to go ahead and change my workspace over from Essentials to Interactive for PDF. That's going to give me a lot of the menus that I'm going to be using to create some of this interactivity. But before I get to interactivity, I'm going to need to design my presentation. So some of the basics of a good presentation are things like an opening page, a closing page, and running footers. So to do some of those things, I'm going to work with my master pages, especially for things like running footers. So to get into that, I'm going to go ahead and open up Pages, and I'm just going to double click onto my A Master. I can see that this has changed to A Master down here. This is highlighted. I'm working in my master page. So I'm just going to create a real basic running footer along the bottom. So I'm going to put a bar along the bottom, whatever height you would like it to be. You don't want it to be too massive and overtake your presentation. It all depends on what information you're going to be using. So I'm going to give this block some color. Might make it black. That looks pretty nice, or whatever color matches your presentation. I'm going to add the title of my presentation. Font to something not that. I'll go with a nice basic Helvetica. That down to the bottom here. If you're doing your presentation for a class or for a client, you may want to give their name as well. So put class or client name. Change that too. Make it something a little bit different. And then I may want to add a slide number in as well. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my text box, type, insert special character, markers, current page number. Great. And set that to something as well. Give it a different color. It's up to you. It's your design. This is clearly done entirely on the fly. I haven't mapped any of this out. So there I've got some of that basic information that's going to be on my running footer. Now what is a good thing to do, and you're familiar with this from working in InDesign, I'm sure, but since I want this to not be covered up by anything that I may be adding into my presentation. I'm going to go into my layers palette. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm just going to call it footer. Hit OK. And then I'm going to take everything that is in my footer, box included, and move it up to that footer layer. I'm going to go ahead and lock it and jump back into layer 1. That way when I jump back into my pages, now I'm on page 1. If I were to draw something, this box, it's going to go underneath my footer. So that's just to keep that information consistently along the bottom of your presentation as you give it. So now as I'm building this presentation, I want to go ahead and create a cover page. So page 1 is going to be my cover slide. So I'm going to set that to not having a master page. I'll just put none on there just to get rid of the bottom. And I can design this whole thing as I want to. So it's helpful when you're designing your cover page to spend some time with it. I'm not going to be spending a ton of time just because this is merely for demonstration purposes. It's not a presentation I'm going to be giving to a client. Your cover slide, because a lot of times you are introducing yourself, you're introducing your project, you want to have a nice graphic that stands up, looks great, and is not generally annoying or too bright to look at because you may be presenting in a room, like in a dark space. So if it's a really bright color, it can be a little obnoxious to the eyes. So I'm just going to do a real basic, quick and easy cover page. Just set that to black here, and I'm just going to write my title on here. Title of presentation. I'm going to open up my paragraph styles because I should start using those as I'm building and as I'm working. Always easier to make sure that you've got your paragraph styles set up. If I wasn't doing this on the fly, I may have those already set before I really got going. So there's my title of my presentation. That looks pretty good. And I may want to add subtitle information in there as well. What are we talking about? Subtitle, or any other information. So subtitle, other information that you need to convey to your client or to who you're presenting this to. Let me go ahead and add that in as a paragraph style. Call it subtitle. Double check everything looks great. Looks great. And I'll do the same for my title. Title. Awesome. So now I've got those paragraph styles I can work with. And then, as always is important, put your name on your presentation. If you're presenting to a client, you may want to say presented for, and then list the client's name. My name or a client's name. That way you know that this has been prepared by you or especially for somebody. Going to set that up real quick. I'm not wanting to spend too much time on it because I know this isn't, sometimes watching people design is not the most fun thing. That white, great. Okay. So far, so good. So what? So all right, there's my title page. Looks great. Actually, it doesn't, but that's all right. You get the idea. We're going to move on to our next page. So in thinking about an interactive PDF, you want to think that, okay, because I'm adding interactivity to this, it's not just necessarily going to be a linear presentation. We're going to put in buttons and links that allow us to jump around and skip through the presentation. So it's nice to put in a table of contents page. I don't know that right now. So I'm going to go ahead and just say, hey, table of contents. I'll set that in my master page font here and make that black. Send backwards. There we go. There's my table of contents. And I'm just going to go ahead and leave this page for right now because I'm going to be building my contents. I just want to leave it as a nice page marker for myself to come back once I've got everything done and then add in the contents and add in my interactive features. Since I'm going to be doing a header for each of my various sections of my presentation, I think it might be a better use of my time to cut out this header from the page itself and put it on my master page. So I'm just going to select both pieces, do a Command or Control X to cut, and then I'm going to move into my master page here, and then I'm going to go ahead and paste that in place. So I'm going to just do Edit, Paste in Place, and that's going to put it in the same place that I had it. I'm going to change this, instead of reading Table of Contents, I'm going to have it read Title of Page. And then that looks pretty good. So when I jump back into my presentation here, I can now see that I have a title for every single page. Now you may not want that, so at this time it might be a good idea to have a title, have your A master be a title page, and then do a B master as non-titled pages. So I'm going to go ahead and do that too. So I'm going to go ahead and do a new master. I'm going to base it off of master page A. That looks good. And then on my B master, let me override all of those, and I'm just going to delete that. So then when I jump back into my document, I now have my title of page. So if I want to make this one my table of contents, I can do so. Next page will also maybe have a title, and then if I have an informational page, which will probably be down here, I can take my B master and apply that. So then I have title pages and non-title pages. So let me jump back to making this one the table of contents. So I'm going to to unlock this master page item here, I'm simply going to do Command and Shift and then click. That'll unlock it. So then I can call this one table of contents. Great. So my table of contents is page 2. Page 3, I'm going to do that Command Shift click, and then I'm going to do my research summary. That's just a wee bit long. Extend that just a little bit. There we go. And then now if I'm going from page to page, you can see that there's not any bouncing in between. Alright, through some magic of editing, I've added a little bit of content to some of my pages just so that it's not completely blank when we're flipping through this. I've gone ahead and put in some really adorable pictures of kittens just because it's more fun to look at pictures of kittens while we're looking at setting up and finishing up what's going to be my presentation. So I have different pages that all have the headings on them. They would have content that would go in there. We're going to have a space for video, and then we're going to have a hyperlink to your website. So let's go ahead and get some of this put together. So the first thing I want to do is I did add in some previous and next buttons into my master pages. So they are here. They're on all the master pages, the A and the B, so that way they show up. And this way you can use these buttons as well to toggle through your presentation. So we're going to have a previous and next, skip to the end, and skip back to the beginning. So let's go ahead and jump into the master page really quickly and set up that interaction. So I went to my A master. I'm going to open up my Buttons and Forms panel. So that is under the Workspace Interactive for PDF. You can also find it if you go to Window, Interactive, Buttons and Forms. It will be there as well. So I'm going to select on my next button. So from the Buttons and Forms, I'm going to hit the fly down. I'm going to turn it into a button. And I'm just going to name that button Next. It's helpful to name all of your buttons for interactivity. Otherwise, you're going to end up with button 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On release or tap, that looks good. And then I need to add an action. So I'm going to click the plus to add my action. The action is going to be go to next page. Great. So if I want to change the color or anything on this so it has a little bit of interactivity, I can do that as well. You see it has a normal state, a rollover, and a click. So to change the rollover state, I'm just going to highlight on it. Now it's going to have a rollover state active, so I'm just going to change the color to, say, a pink, just so you can see something's happening, and then the click, we'll change it to yellow, just so that we can see something happening here. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the previous button, changing it to a button, calling it previous, add my action, go to previous page, and then I'm going to add those same colors just for consistency's sake. And then you can see if you click on the different states what they look like. Create a new button. Last page. Go to last page. And then I'm going to add the colors here. Great, and then very last one, button, first, go to first page, add those colors, and that looks great. So then these should all be working. To go previous and next, because I've made two different master pages, I also need to go into that second master page and do the exact same thing with them. So let's pause this. I'm going to pause the recording. I will do that quick, and then I will show you how to export this so we can test out that interaction. All right, so with a little bit of video editing there, I've gone ahead and gotten my previous and next buttons working on all of my slides for both the A and B master page. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this and export it. So I'm just going to do a save quick. I'm going to call it demo presentation. Always good to have a working document for yourself. And I'm going to export it. So I'm going to go to File, Export, and saving it as a PDF. Make sure that Adobe PDF Interactive, that needs to be interactive and not print, to make sure it's exporting all of these interactive elements. I'm going to hit save. And then within here, I want all of my pages. It's fine to leave it as pages. We didn't do spreads. And then I'll leave view as after exporting checked, and I will hit export. Going to export my document. It opens up an Acrobat Reader, so I can see there's the title of my presentation. And now I have my table of contents, which I haven't yet filled in, but now I'm just going to check these buttons to see that yes, they are indeed going to next. I can see that I have my hover color here of the pink. that if I click it turns yellow for a second. You can see that yellow. And now it's clicking through my presentation. So if I want to advance each slide, I can do that. In previous, I can go to the end, I can go to the beginning. So that's some of the basic navigation through the site. We're going to go ahead and keep going with this so we have some internal navigation in the PDF as well. So now that we've got our navigation previous and next set up, we're going to go ahead and do our table of contents. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Layout, Table of Contents. I don't want to have a title for it. I'm going to set my paragraph style to table of contents style, which I've set up ahead of time. And then because all of my titles of my slides are set up to that paragraph style of title, I'm just going to select title. I will hit add. And then I'm going to set it to table of contents style. That looks good. I'm going to leave create PDF bookmarks checked. So with that is checked, it's by default going to create my bookmarks in my interactive PDF for me, which is great. It saves me a step. And then I'm going to hit OK. It's going to load up a type cursor. I can simply click anywhere, and that gives me my table of contents generated for me. And that looks pretty good. So now that I have my table of contents, I'm going to go ahead and create a link to some of these pages. I don't really need these so much because I'm not going to link from the table of contents to the table of contents, but I do want my research summary personas and some of these others. So I'm going to go ahead and, because this is one text box, I can't really turn it into, I could turn it all into one big button, but individual buttons doesn't work so well. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut some of this stuff out and create my own buttons. So I'm going to grab my type tool here. I'm just going to drag out a sizable chunk and copy this, bring it over to where I had that and paste it in. Great. Now I can turn this. I'm going to give this a background color of black. I'm going to make my text color white. I'm going to do a little bit of a baseline shift on this text just to center it a little bit more. And center it within the, there we go. Give it a little more space and padding. That looks great. And now I can turn this into a button. So actually before I turn it into a button, I'm going to finish all of my other ones. So I'm just going to clone this. Times here, and then copy, or let me just type it. Oops, 5. All right, now I'm going to turn these into some buttons here. So I'm going to click on my research summary. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Research summary. From buttons and forms, I'm going to click the drop down. I'm going to create it, turn it into a button. and then add my action, and I'm going to say go to destination, which is the first one, and then it gives me these options here. Document, if you want to stay within the document, if you want to link it to an external file, you can, and then the destination, so I'm going to have research summary. Click on personas, turn it into a button. Destination will be personas because we created the table of contents that will generate the bookmarks for us. So testing results, button, go to destination, and this is going to be testing results, testing videos, button, go to destination, testing videos, and then site preview in the same way. And so now that I've got all of these buttons linked up, I'm going to go ahead and save it, export it, save over top of my other file. And then I'm going to test out that that goes to where I want it to go. Personas, testing videos. So those are all working correctly the way they're supposed to. So now I'm going to link to an external video. So I'm going to link to my testing videos, my user testing videos. So hopefully you have those available for you on the. So I'm going to jump onto YouTube. I'm going to grab my really awesome video here, and I can just snag that hyperlink right here. I'm just going to copy it to get to that video. I'm going to jump back into my InDesign document, and I can select the entire video. I just did a screenshot of the video to get it here. If you want to put a play button or some other type of icon over top of it, that's generally pretty helpful. But I can just take this whole image itself and turn it into a big button that you can click on. So I'm going to just go over to my buttons and forms, click button, add my action, and say go to URL. From there, it's going to give me this option for my URL. I'm just going to paste in. I can get rid of that first http:// It doesn't need that. There we go. And then I have my YouTube destination that it can go to. It's also nice to have a description for the video. So link to cute kitten video. So that way people have a description for it for use in, if you want to, you can also add an additional button that says, hey, click here to go to my video, click here to watch a video. That's also sometimes helpful. You can write that in or click video to watch. I'm going to make a separate button just for it to watch cute kitten video. Just so that there is no way that you're not going to miss this at all. Please watch my video. So just make it pink and really obnoxious here. Center it, shift it down. Great, and now I can make this whole thing a button. Go to that URL again. And it should be saved within here. There it is. It's saved. Great. And then link to cute kitten video. Awesome. So that'll be all set up. We'll test that in a minute because I also want to do the same type of thing for my site preview. It's going to be the same thing if I'm trying to preview to my external site. I can have that button. Jump back out here, find there's my website. Look, adorable kittens cleaning squish beans. I need to share it with the world, so I'm going to copy that URL. And then button, add, go to URL. Paste that in. Great. And then again, I'm going to say link to my site. And then I can make a button for it as well. View site. Button, action, go to URL, even have it saved. I'll put Board Panda there and link to Board Panda. Great. So now that I have those linked up, I'm going to go ahead and save it, and I want to test this again. So now that I can go through and there we go. And I can see that tooltip will pop up, link to Cute Kitten video, so that way it's got a description. It's helpful accessibility wise, so that way people know where to go. So if I click here or here, it's going to, oh, yes, I would like to go. Make sure my thing isn't blocking it, but there that is my video for my cute kittens. Adorable. So let me go ahead and test that next link out as well. Click to view the site. Fine, allow. And the site is going to load. Hopefully fast. There we go. And there's my link to my site. So I know that my hyperlinks are working. So I want to go over just a couple more things with an interactive PDF that may be outside doing a presentation, but are just some tools that it's helpful to be aware of when you're working on interactive PDFs, because there are a lot more options within these buttons and forms. So you can turn your interactive PDF into a form. So if you were maybe emailing out your presentation and you wanted to get feedback from people, you can set up some of those interactive elements as well. So to do that, I'm just going to jump onto my blank page here, and I'm going to grab a type tool, and I'm going to type in comments or concerns. And then below that, I can create another text field. Let me go ahead and turn off preview mode so you can see where, oops, not that one, hit the wrong button. And I'll create another text box, and I'm going to make it fairly large. And then when I select just that, I can turn it into, I have these other options under buttons and forms. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this into a text field. So once I turn that into a text field, I can name it, so I could call it comments. And then under here, printable, required, if you wanted to make somebody required, like they're required to turn it in, or password, read only. I'm going to make this multi-line because I made it fairly large. It is scrollable. And then you can set the font. I'm just going to leave mine at the standard Minion Pro. You could always drop it down to 10 point if you felt so inclined. And then I'm going to do a couple other form types of things. So I'm going to say, after my comments and concerns, rate this presentation. And after that, I'm going to write like 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star. And so maybe then I want to put some radio buttons where people can say whether or not they liked my presentation. So I'm going to grab my frame tool, click and drag out a square, and I'm going to turn that into a radio button. And I'm going to clone it. And then I'm going to group it. So then people have the option of clicking whether or not they want to turn on those radio buttons. If I decided I didn't want a radio button, I could also turn them into a checkbox. If you wanted a checkbox, and you can see that these are the default styles for the checkbox. You have the option to change these if you want to. So then you can leave them checked, unchecked. So there's your options for checkboxes. You can also turn your form into somebody. So if you wanted them to fill it out and turn it back into you, you can also do a submit form. So I'm going to create my button, and I'm going to just say submit form. And I can turn that into my button, add action, and then add my action and submit form. So then when you submit, turn in that submit form, all you need to do is a mail to : and then your email at email.com, whatever your email address is. And then when they click on this button, it will email this whole PDF back to you. So let's go ahead and save and export and just take a look at what that looks like. To reopen it because I hadn't opened it yet. Skip all the way to the end. Oops. There we go. So then I can see here's my text field that I can type in. And then I can check these. And then I can click submit form. I'm not going to do it. It says send the data to your email at email.com. I'm not going to click that because my computer was probably going to freak out because that's not a real email address and give me some issues. So those are some additional things that you can do in your interactive PDF. So whenever you want to give this as a presentation, you just hit Command L. That will open this up as a lovely slide that you can then click through. I can then click on these links if I want to and jump to any of my points within my slides. I can click these as well as, and then I have buttons that will link me to external sites. So it's a nice way to get a little bit of interactivity in your PDF. There's a lot more that you can do with it, but you can see that the power of InDesign and the custom designing that you can do within InDesign, as well as some of this interactive features, is a very powerful way to design a very beautiful presentation, even if you're just using kitten videos. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.